on today's subject, I like stats. I like learning useless information. I rarely retain it completely, but I learn. I love like kind of learning that. I want to be good at trivia games, but none of the things I learn are in trivia games, and so that's a problem that I'm. But anyways, maybe you guys might be interested. Today we're gonna preach on a word that's the last one of this mental health series, and it's gonna be called soon enough. Soon enough. I, let's look at it this way. The Did you know the average lifespan of an active game baseball is only 2 to 7 pitches before it's thrown away? Isn't that kind of crazy? And whenever like they ask you to throw the ball back whenever you catch it, I'm always like, no, like you have plenty. I paid for tickets, as I'm at a Storm Chasers game that a company hosted. Um, my time paid for tickets. How about this one? Maybe I don't know. Did anybody probably assumed that? Maybe I didn't. I don't watch baseball, so I'd have to talk to Mari about it, I guess. Um, and whoever else I don't know that likes baseball. How about this one? The dollar bill has an average lifespan of 20 to 40 months before it is too worn out to be used. So it goes, yeah, it can only stay in circulation for 2 years. Isn't that's weird? But a coin, the average lifespan is 30 years. And so you're like, oh, why are we closing like the coin mint factories and all this stuff? Yeah, there's just too many now. And they're all gross. Like I think that every bank should have one of those like washer systems where you can like you just throw coins in and then it rotates and then you open up some slots and it starts sorting them. Oh, have you seen those videos? Okay, I'm on tangents today. How about this one? You guys have definitely all felt this one. The functional and economic lifespan of the typical smartphone before it is replaced or stops receiving software updates is only 2.5 years. And you're like, yeah, and I'm holding on to it. My phone's nearing that 2 year mark, and I'm feeling that. I'm like, Lord, you're either testing me or, Tim Cook has something against me. This one might be sad for somebody in here. The median lifespan for a domestic cat is 14 years. That's crazy? That's way too old. That's how you know cats are evil. Does anybody here have a cat? Okay, yeah, they're evil. Uh, the common narrative of marriages is like 7 or 12 years is like the 7 year itch and like all that stuff. But data indicates that the median duration of a first marriage that would end in divorce is actually after that time. It's about 13 to 14 years. So you got to double the itch. Like that's what I've understood there. But here's the good news. On the flip side of that, the statistics of marriages ending are actually going down because people are waiting to get married later so that they're more mature and developed and ready for all of the stuff that's going on. And so then the average, let's consider your wedding day like your couple birthday. Then the average age of a couple before death do us part or separation is 40 years. And so like there's the great potential that's in your marriage is, oh, we will be a 40-year-old and we'll finally know what we're supposed to do. Like, cause that's what as we're creeping up to 40, that's what it's kind of starting to feel like. Is like, I think I'm about 4 years away from actually knowing what life is about. And then I'm sure when I turn 40, it's going to be like, no, I have no idea. Actually, I'm gonna unlearn everything again, like which such is life. Here, this one might be some like weirder ones because why would you ever look this up? But experts are giving us their best estimates right now for how long we have till the planet Earth has been depleted of natural resources. And so here's what they're saying for copper, we're about 30 to 50 years away before we can't get any more of it. It's non-renewable. So we'll have to cycle whatever exists. If you got those copper mule mugs, they'll ask you to turn them in, which I'm like, we're going to do our part. We got two. And so I almost went on another tangent, by the way, and I censored myself, except for this tangent where I told you um, here's one that's really relevant to life right now. Oil and natural gas. They're estimating if things don't change, if we don't adjust the way that we're using them, using the different resources and how much we're using, we got about 40 to 50 years for some of us. Use it. That's going to be after you're gone. And then there's a few of us that will still be here mad at our younger selves, and the generation will hate us like they already do. And this is kind of the one of the craziest ones because I thought this was pretty renewable of some kind. But natural coal from coal mines, we only have about 110 to 130 years, which pretty much runs the entire state of Kentucky on the Appalachian side. That's the place you have to drink moonshine to do your job. And this is, again, just some more interesting stuff. Ecologists estimate that if every person on Earth adopted a minimalist lifestyle, strictly vegetarian diet, and on like wider areas of land that were somewhat communal in nature, that you didn't have to be stacked on top of each other, so there wasn't as much pollution of single sources, called cities, which we're in, and we were mainly dedicated to the idea of human survival. Like that was the intention of our decision. The planet could sustain roughly to 10 to 12 billion people. But on the flip side of it, we have about 8 billion people in the world right now, as it's massively growing, and but resources very clearly are depleting. And if everybody on Earth continued to adopt the average lifestyle of a North American or European person, the Earth only has resources to sustain about 2 to 3 billion people. And so our current cycle right now is we use about 1.7 Earths to sustain our current system. And that's still with massive amounts of people not living well. It just gets like, you're like, oh, thanks, Pastor. This sucks. This okay. Here's where it's all leading to. Is even the title of this message is "Soon Enough, All Things End." And one of the like both like positives and negatives of being a person of faith is this acknowledgement and release of that things end soon enough. All throughout the entire Bible and messages that we preach, and then even to the point of how we talk about the concept of what salvation means, is mostly in the framework of the end of things. And so then this is the kind of negative side. Then is there's a movement among the Christian group, like Western Christian group, which is that Christians have no responsibility to the end. We have kind of released responsibility. I have no control over it. It's all going to end. So whether or not I'm here or responsible, it doesn't matter. And so things like climate change and responsible use of our lives and our resources, most of the Christian groups are kind of, including myself, if we're trying to downsize our home to get ready for a move, and I'm like, we have way too much. Like there's just so much in this, and we're actually pretty minimal compared to some of our family, which so when we go to their houses, we judge them, and it's okay, they don't watch our sermons, and so not the ones who watch our sermons. Those ones are great, especially if they tithe. But there's this kind of the like the mortality of things is just a looming thing all around us. Like hey, we and it's not like this. We're not hyper aware of it. We can't be, otherwise we would truly live in just extreme panic at all times. You would not be able to get into a car, and there are people who cannot get into cars because of this looming idea of this is a giant metal death trap. And we're like, all right, let's go play go kart at 80 miles an hour, and that's insane. But here's the our brain, we're in this mental health series and we're talking about this, and our brain is where a lot of our stuff, and in previous series we've talked about our brain is trying to survive, and so because of that, if we aren't helped in very traumatic or crisis situations, our brain will take over in order to help us. And I mean that to be like really important as somebody who has a psychosis. I had there was a realization that although I felt like my brain was lying to me and hurting me, it was simply trying to survive. And it's at some point I mixed my emotions and my brain's concept of survival to say, I just everything needs to end. And that was just like that was the muddled mess. But at the time in which that triggered a lot of the stuff that was happening with that, I wasn't in a place where I was surrounded by a system that would help lift me up to say, all right, Eric, let's do this. And I've been in church my entire life. I could read you the scriptures backwards and forwards and all of that stuff. And still, there was the struggle of fully acknowledging, hey, this thing sucks. And I'm realizing that this stuff, like all things, eventually end. And so we like here's how maybe we you might see this. I've definitely had a few of these. In order to not acknowledge the end of things, you might be staying in a relationship longer than you should, because to end a relationship, even one that needs to end, is just like it doesn't, because you know what you're going to go back to, and that didn't feel good, and we don't even acknowledge maybe we've healed and maybe we become a more mature person in the meantime. We're just Peter at the end of Jesus's death going, well, I'll just go back to fishing. That's all I know. How about this? You might just be staying in a job that you should just move on from. Some of it is I'm not confident in my ability to get a better job. I'm just going to move to a new location that also sucks. Which in that mindset, I agree. If you're like, this sucks, I'm not willing to change anything, don't change your job, by the way. Consistency on your resume looks better than inconsistency. So, and yeah, go watch the other messages from the series. How about we will stay in old habits and routines and behaviors that don't match the growth and maturity that we're trying to go on. For those of us who we've been on this formation journey where you're learning to pray and worship and be generous, and in fasting and in all of these aspects, you've developed these and you've made community a regular routine in your life, yet it conflicts with what we talked about last week, some of the addictions, the things that we still just don't know how to let go of completely. And it's because if I end these, what does that mean about this other place? Because I haven't replaced these things. And then there's a whole group of people that you either detach completely. You might become like emotionless in order to not feel the hurt that's with it. Again, a learned trait to not acknowledge the fullness of what that emotion is. The other one is you become overly attached, right? I don't know if maybe you're that person, or maybe you've had a friend in your life that you're like, listen, I want to be there for you as a friend in this really tragic time, but you can't move in. And like you're here all the time, and I have a life also to live, but you don't say that to that person because they're going through something really hard. And so, anyways, but there's all of these things that it's just our way of like, uh, this is, and our brain goes, don't think about it. And have you ever like wondered about like the obsession of like celebrity deaths? Like it's like anybody else, but there's like this public awareness of like a character I've seen that has been literally larger than life on a screen. I won't see it anymore. Like, and that's weird. And then so everybody has this national mourning and it's like, yeah, thank you for your contribution and your art and like all that stuff. But like the weight that some of us feel because of what that art has changed in us, it's like that's really good. But then never, it's like, okay, I need to find a new artist. Like I need to, and it's like just be. And then there's this like, and so when we're confronted with it, what we find out when soon enough becomes now, we start to feel the very real. And I would say, and again, I'm a super sensitive emotional person, the second most important emotion after love, and that is grief. And in grief, we've Pastor Natalie a couple of years ago did a beautiful message. I'm going to do my best not to take anything from that because I would love if you went back on YouTube or the podcast and search for that because I will not do any part of it justice because she gave a really beautiful word there. But to quote her, and is that grief is a natural process. Okay, it is how we are supposed to recognize the end of something we love. There's kind of a classic phrase that we again only really understand whenever something ends. It's usually at like a funeral or a celebration of life. Which is that the amount of grief that we feel in a particular moment exposes the amount of love that we have. And sometimes when we cut that off, it's not that you don't love, it's this fear of what both of these emotions mixing together would mean for us, right? Is that I both love so intensely, and this grief is equally as intense in this moment. And because I can grieve longer than I feel like I can love in this moment, it feels even heavier, right? As if love, and we all know this, but as if love was only about the physical presence of the thing we love. But if anybody's been in a long distance relationship or you've had family move away or just the seasons of life seem to just move on, you went through high school and you moved on. You know that the friends you keep and the relationships you have, even distant, does not determine your standard of love. It might determine regular communication or things like that. But again, us not doing this. And so the Bible talks a lot about this concept of grief, and looking at this, we have so many beautiful stories. And this is, as much as we think the Bible is about the end of things, it's about the presence of our current state. In our series in the garden, God's intention is not to fully have love only when you're in heaven. It's that we would have love now. That Jesus wasn't speaking to the end, he was speaking to now. The kingdom of heaven is here. And that's not a place, it's the presence of what God is trying to do. And so we have this, and the Bible speaks to this deep and overwhelming sadness. The authors of the Bible face insurmountable obstacles, some of them not ever overcoming them. And it's important to read those stories. I remember the first movie I saw where it didn't end with a happy ending. It was the movie Master and Commander with Russell Crowe. It's like a big ship movie, Navy, old, like and he's crashing through these waves, and then it ends. And the implication is he has gone out to sea, and that's the end of the movie. And I was like, what? Like, that's the end. Like, there's no resolution. The hero doesn't, the ship crashes and then you see a shore and then a hand goes and then it goes black and it says Thanos will return in Avengers. I don't know, like Maximus Decimus. Like it didn't have that. And the piece of me like that only sees movies as happy endings was like, I don't think I could ever watch this movie again. Like, I don't want to feel this way. And the Bible has these stories, which I can imagine not wanting to read those stories, not wanting to acknowledge this type of stuff. But the Bible then also gives us the two types of people who go through these situations, even if they don't see the full resolution of that thing. And the two types of people are those who are stay in this brokenness. There's a just, this is where I live, my house now. And then there's the people who feel this brokenness and decide, I'm just going to keep believing that there's something more because my God is more than this. And these are both stories are really important, and neither one necessarily is more valuable to us as readers than the other, except for now, how do we want to live that out? And one of the things that I really appreciate that is in the framework of this series, but also in what the Bible is trying to communicate overall, which is that you can be productive and successful while grieving and being depressed. And this is a weird, like, you can both live in it and keep moving forward. And the common language of depression and the way that we mostly learn that we're depressed is I can't get out of bed, or I don't want to work, or I don't want to be helpful, or I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. And not just simply whew, this is not good. I got things that I'm going to continue to do, but I'm depressed right now. And part of that depression is I don't feel a way out. But what the Bible calls us to do is to grieve spiritually, which is to invite God into the process of that big, important weight and emotion, right? I know, kids are kids. It's going to be good. And so in this framework of the series of saying enough is enough, I'm going to move forward. What does that look like? Right? Are you guys interested in that at all? Okay, cool. I hope so. And if not, I don't know. Sit there and nod your head and say amen to make me feel good. Let's there's not like there's not necessarily I would call it a linear path. I'm sure people who are actually experts in this field say it's not linear, or you missed like 8 steps, but for the sake of time, I'm going to kind of break them down into 4 steps that we see this kind of path of how the Bible authors and the people they tell stories of lead us to progressive grieving, inviting God into this. The first one, and if you're taking notes, I would love for you to take notes. I'm not putting anything on the screen today because I got my notes done late, and Tyler was super great, but even this morning I was changing up my notes. And Tyler's like, do you want me to? And I was like, no, just put that main slide up the entire time. So it's on you. You gotta, if you want to remember this stuff, and go from there. So the first one, I think that how to grieve spiritually is acknowledge. The first step is that, oh, this sucks. I hate this. And hate is the appropriate word right now for this feeling. There is nothing about this is good. I don't like it. Even if I'm a person of faith and I believe God is good and he's going to make all things work out for the good of those who believe, and all of the good scriptures, the first really important thing that we cannot skip over is acknowledging this, acknowledging specifically what hurts about this. The biggest example of grief that we have, because it's just so large, is the passing of somebody, and there's a grief about that, but the grief doesn't always mean sadness. But if you're not acknowledging what part of this is this deep feeling of grief, why am I feeling this? And go beyond the surface of I miss them and I will miss them. That is important. But there's deeper things behind this, right? We've, over the years of ministry, we have walked this path with so many people, and which means that, like, we've been there on the days in which we help lay the person to rest, but then we are also there the years after, that are the conversations of, I think I'm just now starting to understand my grief. And I want to help by saying that it's not about trying to get out of grief fast, but this first hurdle, I've just seen a lot of people either stop the race or trip over it again and again and again, which is acknowledge what hurts about this. I'm gonna miss them, but I need their words of encouragement, and I'm so grieved that I don't have that anymore. And just kind of just greet it. I've compared it to, and I've talked to my therapist about this, and she's like, Eric, if this works for you, great. I think it's beautiful. But whenever I'm feeling those deep, that where it seems to that deeper feeling, and I go, where is this? What is happening with this? And then that I'm asking that question, what hurts about what I'm feeling right now? I've been calling it, like, instead of going up to the feeling, if I were to make it a person, I'm not going up and embracing them. I'm waving at them, as if I was at a much larger church and didn't want to meet everybody. Hey, you, brother in Christ. If we talk, you're going to give me your life story. That's what people do to me. And like, I acknowledge it. Hey, you're here. Hi. Uh, I see you. And don't skip past that. What's really helpful for me, is when I have those of certain things that I have been on the healing journey, and the therapeutic journey, and so many different things. There's days that I walk into appointments, or even just days where I'm like, geez, I just had my appointment yesterday. I got like 2 more weeks before I can talk to a professional. What I've learned to do is I don't sometimes need a professional therapist. I need a professional friend. And so sometimes acknowledging it is just someone really close to me, and someone who's really safe, that's not worried about my big feelings and has walked with me and understands what my goals are in this. I will just say, this sucks. I hate this. And this is why. And I don't like it. And I hate being reminded of this, but we have to acknowledge this. Here's something I need you to understand, is if you don't feel, it won't heal. I'm a feeler, okay? Like, I know not all of us are, but there is something very cathartic about just being in your feels, just being in that. By the way, it will make joy feel better, because you'll learn how to do the harder one, which is sadness. And you won't feel guilty about having joy, because you have already done the work of the hard thing, which is sadness, which is hurt and pain. Do you want to be happier? Well, learn how to be sadder, better. Yeah, but James and I will hand you some music that will make you feel that way. Here's the second step I want to give you guys, and this next one is accepting it. in specifically the conversation of grief that is connected to loss. Maybe you lost a job, by the way, that's a very traumatic thing. And what I mean by trauma is it's not trauma can it's man it's defined by so many different people. Here's my definition: anything that is not giving love back, but has only hurt that is traumatic. And so there's things that then later in life would be typically traumatic or would be traumatic for somebody else, but you know how to get love out of that hard place, so it doesn't feel as much, but there's still a trauma in that. Losing your job and not knowing how you're going to feed your family is a traumatic experience. How you're going to pay insurance, how you're going to take care of things. And so this is a little bit like I grew up in a very poor home. And so, like, doing job applications is anxiety inducing because what if I don't get it? Then and I fill out 25 applications and all of them say no. So I just failed 25 times. Anybody else? Okay. I want to be real because I want you guys to see all of the things that are kind of within this. And so here's what I mean by accepting. And by the way, this whole message is heavy. So I don't know. Go do something happy today. Here's what I mean by accepting. It is accepting that life will never go back to the way that it was. And that is good because we're supposed to grow, which means that when you face these hard times, there is an opportunity of not, oh, what is the lesson that's happening here? The lesson is you're human. And that's it. And you're becoming more of who you are by acknowledging and learning to accept that life is not going to go back to the way it was. If you leave a job, you may never go back to that job again. It's not that you can't, it's just you most likely won't, right? It, and so that's a scale of acceptance that is somewhat easy. But I remember when before I met Natalie, but it was in that same time period. My best friend Jordan drove with me. It was a 26-hour road trip that we did straight, and we rotated driving because I was going to start a church internship. And I remember he stayed an extra day. We planned an extra day that he would stay with me, and we went to a movie. We did all of the things that we did basically in high school, our entire friendship. We got a ridiculous amount of candy. We played video games. I was 20, and so it's somewhat excusable. Come on, and I would still do it today. We went to a movie. We went to the Green Lantern movie, so that was a letdown. And I remember then dropping him off at the airport because he drove. He's gonna fly back, not walk. And I remember dropping him off and him looking at me. And I remember this moment. Again, I'm a feeler, and I remember going and looking at him and saying, "Our friendship will never be the same." Because I'm the first one establishing that we're not going to live near each other. And I felt like so guilty, like I was abandoning him. And he looked at me and said, "Thank God." And I was like, are we not friends anymore? And he goes, "Eric, when we do someday live near each other again, if you are the same Eric then as you are now, I don't know if I want to be friends with you." And then he left my car. And we're in the drop off, so I can't even keep my car there and cry. So I had to do that other sad thing, which is you turn on music and cry as you drive. And in a city, I have no idea how to get anywhere. Like it was just like, oh. And that was the leaving message, and that was the thing. And there was something I had to learn really quickly as I was away from all of my friends and all of my family, is I have to accept the new place that I am at and believe truly believe, if I was making this decision because God was doing something in my life, that this was exactly what he wants. It may not be how he wanted it, but it is exactly what he wants because it always opens the door for what he wants to do. And what he wants to do is so much better than what I want to do. Not as a throwaway statement, but every time I have given what I want to do over to God, he does something so much better. So much better. Here's the other one that I want to put to you. This next, I would call it, again, a linear step, which is remind. I want you to remind yourself while you're grieving. And this is so much later in the process. This is one that you're going to then do for the rest of your life. Because acknowledging and accepting, you may kind of cycle a little bit back and forth, or new things will feel like old things, but it's still kind of a new acknowledgement. But reminding yourself of something you wish you could forget is hard. But we see a lot of different messages in Psalms specifically where we get a very deep emotional responses of the different poets and kings and worship leaders, of them acknowledging not just the current hardship, but going, God, whatever you're doing, you're here. And then almost like it feels kind of weird, but it's like a line where the author will go, be like you were before. Do what you did to your servant Abraham for me. When he was lost, you did this, so do that for me now. I'm reminded, based off of my relationship with you and your relationship with your people, that you've done this before. This feeling that I have might be new to me, but it's not new to you. So be who you are. Very simply, I think this is core, is just reminding yourself what is true. There's a lot of things that are going to try to remind you of what is false. Way more, by the way, than what is true. And the things that are false are also heavier than what is true. What is true sometimes feels very flippant, which is like just like a throwaway kind of eh. The term kind of in religious circles is spiritual bypassing, which is yes, I got this diagnosis and we've already started accumulating the bills, but God is good. No, like he is, but you skipped some of these steps of acknowledging and accepting. And then when the phrase God is good comes out, it is you reminding your soul, your spirit, what is true. That keeps you in the path that I'm moving on is right. This is good. This is what he's trying to do. It's why, man, 4 years going, please read your Bible, because you got to know what's true. You got to be reminded. For those of us that this is a challenge, I hope maybe I can give you some reminders that you can build off of. In Exodus 34, the God of the universe is fundamentally merciful, gracious, and slow to anger. This is true. In James chapter 1:17, he is an unchanging father of lights. He is not part of the darkness. 1 John chapter 4, his very essence is love. Psalms 23, he is not a distant ruler, but an intimate shepherd. Psalms 46, he is your refuge and strength in trouble. Romans 8, he is a personal father who has adopted you as his own. You were born to the world, but now you're his. Ephesians 2, because of all of this, your identity is secure, You are his masterpiece, and you were deliberately created for a purpose. There is no one who was born by accident. First Peter chapter 2, you are a chosen and treasured possession to him. In John 15, you are a friend of Christ. Zephaniah chapter 3, God himself rejoices with loud singing about you. Have you heard that one before? He doesn't worship you, but in the same way that we sing happy birthday, microphone's going crazy. In the same way that we sing happy birthday, he rejoices in songs about you. I love that. What I want is these to be reminders of the promises that he has for you, that you are deeply known, fiercely protected, and completely loved by the one who never changes. And so here's the last step here, which is to remember, which is different than remind. They both require your memory, but one is different than the other. Here's the difference here. While both words involve memory, remember is an internal act of recalling something for yourself, while remind means having an outside person or thing help you recall it. So that's why I say go to scripture to be reminded, but you have a responsibility to have a memory about what you were reminded of, to be able to recall and come back to this. We say this at a lot of funerals and stuff like that, which is there is this the grieving process, again, very, very real, very, very important, and the hope is that in this moment of a celebration of life, but also in these future moments, there is a remembrance of what this person means, not just their physical presence. And so this is a lot of us, especially around holidays, there's an incredible grief around those because of this acknowledgement of who's not there. And I know this might sound a little dismissive, but like, how dare you take their memory away from that moment? Invite them, not like a ghost. You're not conjuring them. You're inviting who they are and the core of what they brought to those things to be there still. It was one of my favorite parts of that Pixar movie, Coco. And the big crux of it, of why they're trying to, the big staging of the and conflict of the movie, is that if they don't acknowledge on this Day of the Dead their ancestors, the ancestor disappears because nobody remembers these previous generations. And so what this little kid is responsible for is to learn about his past and to invite a moment to remember them. I love that. I love that. Does this make that easier? No, that's not its point. Its point is to remember that what was good about them is in you. The best parts of someone else are in you. If Natalie and I, hopefully anything that we've been able to do as spiritual leaders, is that the best parts of what God has spoke to us is now in you. Sometimes to an upsetting amount. For you, not me. So these are the remembering. It becomes important because we have these daily reminders, and sometimes we have to whether we want to be reminded or we want to be acknowledge things, we're still just going to confront with it, and it's going to happen. And so by the time you're at this remember spot, the goal is that there's a joy that's with it, and you learn to not remember things that are completely out of control, but you remember what is good about things. And James, go ahead and come on up. We'll start wrapping up here. Here's some of the ultimately like we'll end the message kind of in this thought. Like I said, I know this message is heavy, but it's important because if life is not all feel good, then why would the Bible that speaks to how to live life be only feel good? And he would be a very absent God if he only talked about blessings and not all of humanity. We just celebrated Easter a couple months ago, and the one of the biggest points of his death is not this transactional sins for eternal life. It's this other thing of he also died. His ministry at some point ended, and if he felt everything we felt and became an overcomer of that, then we have to read that story and not just look at it as, oh, things will get better when I'm in heaven. I don't think that's what his intention was. I think if we can read the story of Jesus, of him knowing that his ultimate end has a deep suffering that none of us will ever experience, that even he chose dinner with his disciples. And there was nothing, there was no nail, there was no whip, and there was no grave that took away from that table. All good things end, but that is what makes it good. This is all good in theory. And then you have to practice it. And each week I talked to Pastor Natalie and I talked to James, and I said, before you write a single word, what do you want people to do? Like you have a topic, what do you want them to do? And we always try to lead it in next steps and practices and things like that. And so today, as usual, we have a next step in grieving, which is not super fun. But like we've talked about, hard moments reveal a lot of what we love. So with all of this in view, I want to share some difficult news. The leadership team, including our oversight and pastors and friends that are in our life who counsel us in how to run churches and all of that stuff, have helped discern that the season of Dwell Church for Natalie and I is done. And not because of anything wrong, but because it's done. Like always, I want to make sure we're incredibly honest with any of this stuff. So the natural question is why, and so the complete honest answer without over explaining is I'm tired. And I apologize. I know this is springing on everybody, and this can be really upsetting. And this is somewhat of an effort to show what I hope we've asked you guys to do. I've been in some form of ministry basically my entire life, if only a pastor's kid. But 14 years I've been a pastor alongside my wife. Except for 3 of those years, I've been bivocational, which means I serve the church most of the time completely unpaid, and then work another job in order to do this, and that's it's hard. So our family is entering in a really. This is the dumbest part, everybody. Dwell's doing great. And so many people were saying yes, and we've been and our family's moving in a really beautiful direction, and super happy about it. But it's time. Okay, I gotta end it. This should bring up questions. Please ask them. In fact, this Saturday we are doing a dwell hang at Aksarben, and we're gonna hang out. It's super casual. There's nothing that we have lined up outside of, if you just want to show up and hang out, great. And if you want to show up to cry, great. Wherever you might be on the step of that, and if you want to show up to laugh and all that stuff, great. And then what we're gonna do is June 28th is gonna be our last service, and we're gonna wrap everything up. Between now and then, there's a handful of logistic stuff that, as we have always worked to do, to practice transparency on what we want to do with how you have been faithful and how you have blessed God's kingdom and blessed us. We want to make sure you understand what is being done with that. I want to do something just to end today's service and wrap things up. We're not going to go back into a song. James is going to keep playing, and who knows how long I'm going to make him stand there. I think we're running on 15 minutes now for him. That's right. Would you guys stand with me if you're comfortable? Over the next 3 weeks, we're both going to be sad. We're also going to celebrate. It's going to be fun, good, sad, all of the fun stuff, but it's going to be, the call is that it'll be evidence of how much we love. And Dwell has never been about a building or an institution. It's always been about a people, and not even the Christianese version of that. What Dwell is doesn't ever end at its physical expression. It ends when we stop doing what we wanted it to do, which is creating a space for God in every head, heart, and home. And so if you guys are open to it or feel comfortable, I wanna practice something that I think might help. If you feel comfortable, would you close your eyes? And then, as a way of just being where we are and acknowledging that, if you would take one or maybe both of your hands and just grip them in a fist as if you're holding something. And maybe the thing that's in this hold right now is that feeling of safety and security of a community, which is beautiful, and that's what hurts. Or maybe there's just an entirely different hurt that you're feeling right now that just feels like it's being held. And to the practice of today's message, and what I want to call all of us to do, as long as you're willing to be on this journey over the next month, is that as we're gripping hard and it's starting, I don't know if you guys are feeling kind of the tension in your fist, but I believe the call that we can do right now is to open up our hand and release. So I'm going to pray, and then Natalie and I are available for any immediate questions, or any other way that you might want to express kind of that deeper feeling, and we'll go from there. I don't know how to end this, so let me pray.